The TenneT Germany transaction was in fact the largest M&A deal announced in Germany in 2025.
It's exactly this kind of complex, impactful transactions that makes me love what I do.
Until just before signing, the outcome was really open. At the end, the M&A track was chosen, but an IPO was also really feasible.
It is so significant because it is an instrumental deal necessary for Germany and in fact for Europe to continue to drive the European energy system towards decarbonization and towards more integration. We were called in summer of 2024 by TenneT Holding. They asked us to advise the holding company to find the best way how they could raise the capital needed to fund the big investment program of TenneT Germany. The German energy system is moving towards even more electrification and even more usage of both renewables but also decentralized power generation. And as a consequence, there is huge investment required into building out the infrastructure, which in essence is the transmission and distribution grids. We're basically talking about a significant three-digit billion investment program over the next 5 to 8 years.
So TenneT Germany connects electricity generation sources with electricity consumers via a roughly 14,000 kilometer long network. That network covers roughly 40% of Germany, which makes it the country's largest electricity transmission system operator.
TenneT Germany is a wholly owned subsidiary of TenneT Holding, which was our client. It is regulated by the Bundesnetzagentur, the German regulator, who sets the returns that the company is allowed to make. And TenneT Holding, as such, is fully owned by the Dutch government, so you have multiple layers of stakeholders involved. Well, quite naturally, at the different levels, you don't always have exactly the same objectives that people have. So the ability to maneuver what is good for TenneT Germany, the company, what are the implications for TenneT Holding, and what are the economic and political desires on the side of the Dutch government, all these multiple dimensions needed to be managed in that process.
When Marcus asked me to work on this, I was really excited. TenneT's intention to secure funding for TenneT Germany was already heavily covered in the press before we even came on board. Our mandate was to design and then also execute what we call a dual-track process. In a dual-track process, an IPO, so an initial public listing of a company, as well as an M&A or a private capital solution are explored in parallel. Our role was to provide our client with the best possible advice so that they can make an informed decision as to the most suitable way for TenneT Germany to attract the equity capital needed. We worked in really close collaboration between the Lazard teams in Frankfurt, Munich, Amsterdam and also Paris.
In a dual-track process, the real challenge is to be sure that both options, so the private track and the public track, are explored with equal attention and neutrality without favoring an outcome over another.
On the M&A side, our German and our Dutch teams worked in close collaboration with our co-advisor ABN AMRO. Over the course of our mandate, we narrowed down more than 20 potential investors to an ultimate group of just a few. That sounds really simple, but it's a very complex process that requires a lot of evaluation and a lot of analysis.
By early summer 2025, there were two options for TenneT Holding and the Dutch state. On the IPO side, the feedback from public investors, so supporting the public track, was really strong.
On the M&A side, we had gathered a small group of potential investors that could jointly actually fund the full equity need for TenneT Germany. The countdown really started when TenneT made a public announcement. In that announcement, they set a deadline for making a final decision between the public and the private track by end of September.
The suspense was really high. We had been working on both processes for over a year and each option remained on the table.
In September 2025, we were entering decision time. I remember we had meetings with the board of TenneT Holding, but also representatives of the Dutch Finance Ministry. We presented our findings. We presented the two very credible alternatives that were available And ultimately, both the board and the Dutch government had to take a decision, and they did.
When Marcus called me to tell me about the decision, I was actually on my way to the office. TenneT Holding, with the approval of the Dutch state, ultimately decided to sign an agreement with 3 leading institutional investors. Together, those 3 investors will contribute a primary equity amount of 9.5 billion euros into TenneT Germany in exchange for a roughly 46% stake. All that taken together actually implies an enterprise value of 40 billion for TenneT Germany.
What could have been one of the largest European IPOs of the decade turned out to be one of the largest European M&A transactions of the year.
After the Dutch government and TenneT Holding had agreed on the private placement, there was a second transaction, which was recently announced in February of 2026, whereby the German government, through its state-owned development bank KfW, is going to become a 25% shareholder in TenneT Germany.
It was so rewarding to see that thanks to our clients' trust and teamwork efforts across the different Lazard offices, we finally managed to pull it off.
To make the investment of KfW into TenneT Germany work, it was instrumental to see how the 2 governments interacted. It was seamless, it was cooperative, and was driving towards one solution.
Deals like this are exactly why I love my job. And the result also makes me really proud personally, because it secures tangible funding for investments into TenneT Germany's grid. And those investments are a key step in achieving Germany's energy transition and are also a critical enabler of the energy transition on a European level.